Any other questions for either of these guys or myself? Okay. So the question is that, the way he understands it is that the Mir Corp, towards the end of its life, it would have required extensive repair work, particularly on the thermal controls. And did the Mir Corp people, did they know this? Did they have a plan for this? And why don't I hand that over to Gus?
Look, he didn't just throw $7 million on the table one gloomy December night. Some of the best engineers on the planet happen to reside in Russia. In fact, that country still possesses half of the total engineers on the planet. And for nothing, for insignificant amounts of money, thousands of them were employed as part of the due diligence. And I have a copy of the book that they came back with. Every possible scenario, every possible what if was covered. Among them, the question that you raise. The simple answer is, if you believe in fairy tale endings, then there would have been no involvement by the US government. The tether would have been approved, and then for no money, Mir would have been put into a safe parking orbit for as many years as it took, and then the proper business plan would have been properly executed, including the tender to raise the hundreds of millions to do the knockover, to go up there and properly refurbish it. So at the end of the day, for 1,000th the cost, 10th of 1% of the cost of the International Space Station, you'd have a perfectly good, relatively brand new space station.
And just to follow up on that question, Mir did have a bad reputation. It did catch on fire, and there was some very nasty mold growing in it, and some of the systems did fail. And it was the butt of many nighttime comedy shows in the U.S. So, you know, there were some problems. It wasn't a pristine piece of real estate. It was more of a redevelopment project. Any other questions? Right here in the middle. So the question is, when the International Space Station is about to be deorbited, and the funny thing is it was only finished a few months ago, so they've been building it for about a decade, and it's only been finished a few, pardon me? Yeah, well, Walt will be out in the end of 2012, and but they were going to deorbit in 2016, and now there's been kind of a populist movement, and Rick and the Space Frontier Foundation have been part of that. But Rick, why don't I let you handle the question about what's next for the International Space Station and whether there's any lessons to be learned from here.
I find it incredibly ironic because we in the foundation actually fought against the space station because we thought it might be a little bit of a boondoggle. Keep in mind, the space station was promised by President Reagan. It was supposed to be done in about 8 years. I think it was supposed to cost
10 billion.
Yeah, about 10 billion. We're in the $100 billion range. It doesn't do anything it was supposed to do. Now, all this time later, you can ask a question like you just did. And you know what? My philosophy, the frontier philosophy, says you don't waste anything. You don't throw things away. And so, yes, the idea of recycling or reusing or handing off to commercial enterprises the International Space Station has to be looked at, and I think it is going to be looked at. Keep in mind, it's not just the United States that gets to make those decisions on ISS, and I'm sure that the Japanese and the Russians and the other partners are a little bit surprised to hear the United States pronouncing that it's going to be tossed into the ocean when they're done with it. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of possibilities. There's a concept that I kind of played with a long time ago called Alpha Town that actually preceded the Mir, and the idea was, let's get a community in orbit. Let's get a bunch of different types of facilities in orbit. We want Bob Bigelow's facility in orbit. We want the Russians to to be able to put new facilities up. But the Chinese are going to have space stations in orbit. All kinds of private enterprises. There's the Excalibur Almaz team working on a commercial space station right now out of the Isle of Wight. So I want to see all of them up there, and yes, a recycled mirror. Another area in that same vein is the idea of declaring old satellites, declaring old space debris to be salvageable, and allowing people to go up and salvage these things that would turn into space debris if they're allowed to keep flying and colliding with each other. You're going to hear that debate starting up fairly soon. It's going to be a really interesting time. You're going to have these wild recyclers and salvagers and all kinds of people going up there and doing crazy things and getting this stuff and building their own things. It's going to be an interesting Wild West in space.
Okay, time for one more question.
Do you yet have a way to overcome the barrier that the U.S. government's attitude proved that anything that goes into space is a weapon?
So yeah, it's a good question about,
ITAR.
and particularly with the Obama administration, is it going to change in relationship to any object being sent out to orbit being part of a munitions control, the technology control regime? And I know, Rick, is something you're passionate about, so maybe you have a comment about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, again, I want to reiterate that the original plan was to push the mirror up out of the way. We didn't want to butt heads with NASA. We didn't want to do any of that. We wanted to take our time. Maybe it was going to be part of the new International Space University's space campus. Maybe it was going to be a lab. Maybe it was going to be this or that. Our goal wasn't to fly, quote unquote, tourists or anything like that. That was something that was forced upon us when we ran into this ITAR challenge, because we don't want those nasty British or Canadians to get our secrets and then pass them on to other people who can go to downtown Hong Kong and buy iPads and things like that that are otherwise illegal. Yeah, we think it's going to change. It kind of has to change. And if the Obama administration, and very quickly, I just want to say, what's happening right now with the Obama program and General Bolden in charge of NASA is an amazing thing. And the reason it's happening is because we have three things going on. We have the historical, philosophical groundwork that a lot of us have been working on for a long time to say that this is a frontier and we need to be able to get the people out there. Number two, we have companies that are the existence proof, companies that started with ours and other companies like ours, the X Prize that Brian flew and other things like that, SpaceX, companies like that can actually do what needs to be done in space. And a lot of people who, as we say in Texas, came up with us, who are on the inside. The new Deputy Administrator of NASA, Lori Garver, was a member of the L5 Society, which was a space colonization group. We have other people, Charles Miller, we have George Whitesides. Well, actually, George is gone now and just became he got booted in the fight that's been going on. He actually lost his job, landed on his feet. He's now CEO of Virgin Galactic. But all of these people are on the inside who share this dream. And so now is a very pivotal time. It's a tipping point moment. Along the way, we also have people I know of in the legal areas who are looking at how do we make these things, the free transport of information occur. Keep in mind, when we were doing the mirror, the internet was a new thing. It's very hard to keep a lid on information now. I think the practical result of that is going to be that we're going to be allowed to work together, because keep in mind, there's no borders in space. It's a new frontier that we all get to work on together. And for the first time, we all get to go out there and express our creativity. It's a blank canvas that we can all paint on together. And I think it's going to be an exciting time. Yes, we'll have battles, but I think that the onus of history, the onus of creating the future, the momentum forward is out there, and we will overcome those barriers.
Well, thank everybody for joining us. Special thanks to Timeshare Relief. It really was a celebration of entrepreneurism. Thank you to the Grand Vision Foundation. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.